Title. A title is one or more words used before or after a person's name. In certain contexts, it may signify either generation, an official position, or a professional or academic qualification. In some languages, titles may be inserted between the first and last name. For example, Graf in German, Cardinal in Catholic usage, Richard Cardinal Cushing, or clerical titles such as Archbishop. Some titles are hereditary. Types. Titles include honorific titles or styles of address, a phrase used to convey respect to the recipient of a communication, or to recognize an attribute such as imperial, royal, and noble ranks, academic degree, social titles, prevalent among certain sections of society due to historic or other reasons, other accomplishments, as with a title of honor, title of authority, an identifier that specifies the office or position held by an official. Titles in English speaking areas. Common titles: Mr. All males, Miss Adult women, Mrs. Married women, includes widows and divorcees. Miss Unmarried women and girls form of address. Madam, also Madame or Ma'am, formal form of address for an adult woman, also used to denote a position of power or respect, similar to the usage of Mr. for men. Example given: Mr. Madame Ambassador. MX, gender neutral or unspecified, may not be recognized in some places. Controversy around usage of common titles. Some people object to the usage of titles to denote marital status, age, or gender. In 2018, a campaign named Go Title Free was launched to encourage businesses to stop requesting, storing, and using marital status titles in their registration forms. And when speaking with customers, launched on the grounds that titles often lead to assumptions about a woman's age or availability for marriage, and exclude non binary people, though various titles such as MX are increasingly used in some countries. This is in line with established practice advocated by the World Wide Web Consortium and the Government Digital Service, which sets the standard for UK government online services. This in turn means that titles are optional on UK passports and driving licenses. Familial. Family titles in English speaking countries include uncle, one's parent's brother, may also include great uncles, aunt or auntie, one's parent's sister, may also include great aunts. Granny, grandma, or nana, one's grandmother, may also include great grandmothers. Pop, grandpa, gramps, or granddad, one's grandfather, may also include great grandfathers. Legislative and executive titles. Honor, honorable, for younger sons and daughters of barons, and RT on, right honorable, for privy councillors, used in the United Kingdom. Some job titles of members of the legislature and executive area are used as titles. MP for members of parliament, usually the lower house. MYP for members of the UK Youth Parliament. MSYP for members of the Scottish Youth Parliament. Representative, senator for members of the American or Australian upper house. Speaker for Speaker of Parliament. President, from which comes such titles as Deputy President, Executive Vice President, Lord President of the Council, and Vice President, Councillor for Member of a Council, Youth Councillor, YC, Alderman, Selectman, Delegate, Mayor, and related terms such as Lady Mayoress and Lord Mayor, Governor and Lieutenant Governor, Prefect, Prelate, Premier, Burgee, Ambassador, Envoy, Secretary, Cardinal Secretary of State, Foreign Secretary, General Secretary, Secretary of State, and other titles in the form Secretary of, in which Secretary means the same thing as minister, attaché, charge d'affaires, provost, minister, from which come such titles as prime minister and health minister. Aristocratic titles: prince, princess, from the Latin princeps, meaning first person or first citizen. The title was originally used by the Augustus at the establishment of the Roman Empire to avoid the political risk of assuming the title Rex King in what was technically still a republic. In modern times, the title is often given to the sons and daughters of ruling monarchs. Also, title of certain ruling monarchs under the Holy Roman Empire and its subsidiary territories until 1918, which is still used in Liechtenstein. Monaco still uses the title prince to this day, even though it was not a part of the Holy Roman Empire. And in Imperial Russia before 1917, the German title is first, a translation of the Latin term. The equivalent Russian term is knyaz, Archduke, Archduchess, a title derived from the Greek archon, ruler, higher, and the Latin dux, leader. It was used most notably by the Habsburg dynasty, who ruled Austria and Hungary until 1918. Grand Duke, Grand Duchess, Big Large, Latin Dux Leader, a variant of Archduke used particularly in English translations. Romanov Dynasty, Russian titles, also used in various Germanic territories until World War One, still survives in Luxembourg. Duke Duchess, from the Latin dux, a military title used in the Roman Empire, especially in its early Byzantine period, when designated the military commander for a specific zone, Marquis, or Marquines, from the French Marquis, literally ruler of border area, from the Old French March, meaning border. Exact English translation is March Lord or Lord of the March. Count, Countess, from the Latin comes meaning companion. The word was used by the Roman Empire in its Byzantine period as an honorific with a meaning roughly equivalent to modern English peer. It became the title of those who commanded field armies in the empire as opposed to dukes, which commanded locally based forces. Earl, used in the United Kingdom instead of count, but the feminine equivalent is countess. From the Germanic jarl, meaning chieftain, the title was brought to the British Isles by the Anglo-Saxons and survives in use only there, having been superseded in Scandinavia and on the East European continent. Viscount, Viscountess, from the Latin vicarius, deputy, substitute, hence vicar and prefix vice, appended to Latin comes, literally translates as deputy count, baron, baroness, from the late Latin baro, meaning man, servant, soldier. The title originally designated the chief feudal tenant of a place who was in vassalage to a greater lord. In the United Kingdom, lord and lady are used as titles for members of the nobility, unlike titles such as Mr. and Mrs. They are not used before first names except in certain circumstances. For example, as courtesy titles for younger sons, etc., of peers. In Scotland, Lord of Parliament and Lady of Parliament are the equivalent of Baron and Baroness in England. Lord, from the Old English, Hlaford, Hlafvert, meaning literally bread keeper, from Hlaf, bread, and Werd, guardian keeper, and by extension husband, father, or chief, from which comes modified titles such as First Sea Lord and Lord of the Manor. The feminine equivalent is lady from the related Old English, meaning literally bread nether, from bread plus maid, and by extension wife, daughter, or mistress of the house, from which comes first lady, the anachronistic second lady, etc. Emperor, empress, from the Latin imperator, meaning he, she who holds the authority to command, imperium, king, queen, derived from Old Norse, Germanic words. The original meaning of the root of king apparently meant leader of the family, or descendant of the leader of the family, and the original meaning of queen meant wife. By the time the words came into English, they already meant ruler. Tsar, tsarina, tsaritsa, Slavonic loan word from Latin, Caesar, the name of Julius Caesar taken by his heir Augustus and thereafter by Augustus's successor as Roman emperor through the fall of Constantinople in 1453, loaned into German as Kaiser. Leader, from Old English leaden, meaning to guide. The head of state of North Korea is titled Great Leader. The de facto head of state of Iran is titled Supreme Leader. Chief, a variation of the English prince, used as short form of the word chieftain, except for in Scotland, where chieftain is a title held by a title holder subordinate to a chief, generally used to refer to a recognized leader within a chieftaincy system. From this come the variations paramount chief, clan chief, and village chief. The feminine equivalent is chiefess. Pope, emperor, king, viceroy, grand duke, archduke, prince, duke, count, baron, chief. Titles used by knights, dames, and baronets and baronetesses. Sir used by knights and baronets. Dame used by dames and baronets. Both the titles Sir and Dame differ from titles such as Mr. and Mrs. in that they can only be used before a person's first name, not immediately before their surname. Neither Sir or Dame confer nobility upon the title holder. Chevalier, French, Cavalier, Italian. Judicial titles: Advocate, Advocate General, Attorney, Bailiff, Barrister, Chancellor of the High Court, Judge and Admiralty Judge, Justice, Chief Justice and Lord Chief Justice of the Judiciary, Lord Justice Clerk, Lord Justice of Appeal of the Court of Appeal, Justice of the Peace, Magistrate and Pro-Magistrate, Master of the Rolls of the Court of Appeal, Member and Chairman for members of quasi-judicial boards, Mufti and Grand Mufti, Notary, President of the Queen's King's Bench Division or President of the Family Division, Lord President of the Court of Session, Privy Councillor or Privy Councillor of Her Majesty's Most Honourable Privy Council, Queen's Council, King's Council when a monarch is male, Solicitor, Historical, Lictor, Reeve, Seneschal, Tribune, Ecclesiastical titles. Titles are used to show somebody's ordination as a priest or their membership in a religious order. Use of titles differs between denominations: religious, abbess, abbot, brother, also for monks, friar, mother, mother superior, and reverend mother, reverend, sister, for religious sisters and nuns, priests. Christian priests often have their names prefixed with a title similar to the reverend. Bishop, from which come archbishop, boy bishop, lord archbishop, metropolitan bishop, and prince bishop. Presbyter, priest, from which comes high priest. The feminine equivalent is priestess. Father, patriarch, pope, Catholicos, vicar, chaplain, canon, pastor, prelate, primate. Dom, from Latin dominus, lord, used for Benedictine monks in solemn religious vows, but reserved for abbots among the Trappists. In Brazil, it is used for bishops. Cardinal, third title, used by Armenian priests. Used for deceased persons only. Servant of God, venerable, blessed, saint, abbreviated S or ST. Other, Christ, deacon, archdeacon, Messiah, commonly used to refer to Jesus of Nazareth, acolyte, dean, elder, minister, monsignor, president in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, reader, almoner, or Lord High Almoner, apostle, prophet, teacher, 70, evangelist, high priest, great Lord, father of all churches. Academic titles: doctor, short for doctor, a title used by those with doctoral degrees such as PhD, DPhil, MD, DO, DDS, EDP, DCN, DBA, DMP, PharmD, DVM, and LLD. Those with JD degrees, also technically allowed, do not use this as a title by convention. Professor, docent. Engineer, short for European engineer, international professional qualification and title for highly qualified engineers used in over 32 European countries. Military titles. Military ranks are used before names: Admiral, from which come Grand Admiral, Fleet Admiral, Lord High Admiral, Rear Admiral, and Vice Admiral. Brigadier, Captain, from which comes Group Captain. Colonel, from which comes Lieutenant Colonel. Commander, from which comes Commander in Chief, Lieutenant Commander, and Wing Commander. Commodore, from which comes Air Commodore. Corporal, from which come Lance Corporal and Staff Corporal. General is used as a sort of shorthand for General Military Commander. The term's far-reaching connotation has provoked this used in a very broad range of titles, including Adjutant General, Attorney General, Captain General, Colonel General, Director General, Generalissimo, General of the Army, Governor General, Lieutenant General, Lord Justice General, Major General, Resident General, Secretary General, Solicitor General, Surgeon General, and Vicar General. Lieutenant, from which come First Lieutenant, Flight Lieutenant, and Lord Lieutenant. Major. Marshal, from which comes Air Chief Marshal, Air Marshal, Air Vice Marshal, and Field Marshal. Mate. More often title is Chief Mate or First Mate. Officer. A generic sort of title whose use has spread in recent years into a wide array of mostly corporate and military titles. These include Air Officer, Chief Academic Officer, Chief Analytics Officer, Chief Business Development Officer, Chief Credit Officer, Chief Executive Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Information Officer, Chief Information Security Officer, Chief Knowledge Officer, Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Operating Officer, Chief Petty Officer, Chief Risk Officer, Chief Security Officer, Chief Strategy Officer, Chief Technical Officer, Chief Warrant Officer, Corporate Officer, Customs Officer, Field Officer, First Officer, Flag Officer, Flying Officer, General Officer, Intelligence Officer, Junior Warrant Officer, Master Chief, Petty Officer, Master Warrant Officer, Officer of State, Petty Officer, Pilot Officer, Police Officer, Political Officer, Revenue Officer, Senior Officer, Ships Officer, Staff Officer, and Warrant Officer. Private, and many equivalent ranks depending on regiment. Sergeant, from which comes Sergeant at Mace and Sergeant of Arms. Maritime titles. The names of shipboard officers, certain shipping line employees, and maritime academy faculty staff are preceded by their title when acting in performance of their duties. Captain, a ship's highest responsible officer acting on behalf of the ship's owner, master, or person who is responsible for the maintenance of the vessels of a shipping line, for their docking, the handling of cargo, and for the hiring of personnel for deck departments. Port captain. Chief, a licensed mariner in charge of the engineering. Chief engineer or deck chief mate or officer. Department. Mate, licensed member of the deck department of a merchant ship. See second mate and third mate. Cadet, unlicensed trainee mate, officer or engineer under training. Contents. Titles in English speaking. Law enforcement. The names of police officers may be preceded by titles such as officer or by their rank. Constable, from which come Lord High Constable and Senior Constable, Agent, Sergeant, Officer, Chief. Protected professional titles. In North America, several jurisdictions restrict the use of some professional titles to those individuals holding a valid and recognized license to practice. Individuals not authorized to use these reserved titles may be fined or jailed. Protected titles are often reserved to those professionals that require a bachelor's degree or higher and a state, provincial, and national license. Professional engineer, registered engineer, engineer in Quebec. Professional nurse, registered nurse, nurse. Other organizations. Some titles are used to show one's role or position in a society or organization. Principal, nanny, coach, wizard, such as the Grand Wizard and Imperial Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. Brother or sister, Chief Scout, the Scout Association, the head of the Scout Association. King Scout, title conferred upon a scout upon achieving highest attainable award achievable in the scouting government movement. Queen's Guide, the title conferred upon a guide upon the highest attainable award for members of the Girl Guiding movement. Scout, Eagle Scout, Grand Master. Some titles are used in English to refer to the position of people in foreign political systems. Citizen, First Citizen.